Hello, and welcome to Good Grief, the podcast dedicated to demystifying and destigmatizing grief, compassion, and humor. I'm Nikki. I'm an end-of-life doula and a grief coach in Columbus, Ohio. And today, guys, we're wrapping up another season. I can't even believe it. Like, where is the time going? This will be the last episode of season 6, and this is episode 141, which is not how many episodes I've had because I've done a lot of bonus episodes. I've done some rebroadcasts, so I'm probably around 160 episodes at this point. So, and I was just listening to a podcast today, and they said 10% of podcasts make it past, is it 10 or 5? Dang it, now I forget. Make it past episode 100. Well, guys, here I am. So I guess I'm in the top 90 or 95% of podcasts then, for that at least. I am still surprised I'm here, but guys, listen, I know I have mentioned this a couple times before. I was featured in this newsletter looking for guests, and I had such an overwhelming response to it. I couldn't get to everybody. And I feel terribly because I know I've pitched to be on shows and I never heard a word. And now I was that guy because I must have had over 100 people pitch to be on my show. And I had to go through and I read every single one. Okay. I read every single pitch, every single request to be on my show. And, you know, I had to pull out the ones I didn't think were appropriate or ones I didn't think aligned with my show. And even then there were so many left. So I don't know. I went in and I have that list forever. So I can always go back to it if I feel the need. But all that to say, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. So, yep, we're going to be off for 4 weeks. So I will be back on October 29th. I will be working hard in the background during that break, though. I have so many more upcoming. I've got like 6 or 7 scheduled right now. Podcast recordings of other guests. I've had more ideas of episodes I want to do. And yeah, so fear not, you guys. I'm not going anywhere. I'm doing my 4-week hiatus, which I always say I don't get a break, but I kind of do because in the month of August, my husband and I took 3 weeks off. And well, I can't say I took 3 weeks off because I had my laptop and I was working that whole trip. But I didn't really work on the podcast during that time. I had, banked up enough episodes and done enough editing ahead of time and scheduled everything that I didn't have to. So I do get breaks, just not at the same time the podcast is breaking. So I'm hard at work while you are sitting at home just desperately waiting for the next episode of Good Grief with Nikki the Death Doula to come up. So fear not, though, I'm not going anywhere. If you really do enjoy this podcast, if you want to support me, please go to patreon.com/Nikki the Death Doula. I know for my repeat listeners and people who already are patrons, probably tired of hearing me say that. And thank you. Thank you all for those of you who are my patrons. If you are new here, I say this with every time. All the money I get from my Patreon goes directly to a line item in my budget so that I can provide pro bono work out in the community. Whether that's seeing clients, giving educational talks, donating things, donating my time to other organizations. I like to give back, and that is how I do that. So thank you to everybody who donates. And if you are, at the end of every month, I upload a video there and tell people what I did that month that their money has gone towards. So you will know what your money is doing besides just, coming to me. So, okay, now that's enough. Without further ado, I want to get into today's episode because this is something I've had on my list of topic ideas for probably since the beginning. So this one is near and dear to my heart and something I'm experiencing personally, which is part of why I wanted to talk about it. But the more I've been very vocal about this in my circles and with people in my life, so I'm sure people are tired of listening to me talk about it, but I am very much in premenopause, and it has been absolutely wreaking havoc on everything in my life. And with this has come a lot of physical, emotional, mental, like all the changes. Okay. And I have spent so much time and so much mental energy hurting, physically and emotionally hurting through this whole process. And I talk about it a lot because So one of my part-time jobs, I had somebody like, "Hey man, are you okay? Because your work has been slipping and you haven't seemed yourself in the past month or so." And I'm like, I'm not okay. And thankfully I am who I am, and I understand that it's okay not to be okay, and that we need to have these conversations, and I need to be a human being, and I can't hide this. I can't hide the fact that I'm not totally okay all the time right now, right? I'm going through menopause, and it's awful. Overall, well, we'll get into the details of it, but many of the common things around menopause that may cause some grief is, first of all, the hormonal imbalance, right? When your hormones help regulate your emotions, not all the time, but they are a part of it. They're definitely a part of it, right? So when your hormones are out of whack, your emotions are going to get out of whack too. And I'm self-aware enough, and I'm in tune with my emotions enough to know that when I'm feeling something, if it's, I hate to use the word unreasonable or not, I know I'm upset right now, but there's nothing around me that would make me upset. So I know it doesn't make me less upset, by the way. Okay. So if there's a female in your life who is either, at a certain place within her cycle or in menopause, going through menopause, or even just, like I said, back, nowhere near that, but just in a certain phase within her cycle, and maybe she's having some emotions, first of all, don't tell her she's being unreasonable. She probably knows that, okay? It's hard for us to I know that, but it's not always easy to just be like, well, I'll just turn it off then, right? That's not not always how it goes. So there's just the hormonal and the chemical things that are making me a little on the emotional side, right? And that can exacerbate grief that is already happening. So if you're already grieving somebody, someone, something, and then you have, your hormones out of whack and your brain chemistry is being affected, it's it's going to make it a little more complicated, right? It's going to make it a little worse, maybe a little weirder. There are days when I'm sorry, I'm playing with my hair for those of you watching the video. I have a terrible habit. And see, I've just completely lost my train of thought, and that keeps happening too. She's OP. Anyway, yeah, I talk about our emotions around grief a lot. And I hesitate to use the words good and bad, right? Because there are no good or bad emotions. There are just emotions. But there might be times, and this, take menopause and hormones out of the equation. There may be times where you are feeling something that doesn't seem alignment with what is happening around you. Like feeling joy and or laughter at a funeral, or shortly after somebody has died, or shortly after loss. And that's okay. You're allowed to feel whatever it is you're feeling. So yeah, emotions, hormones, all that out of whack. So it's a little, yeah. Now, the other things, this is something I'm open about. I never had children. There was a period in my life where I did want children, and I did not. And as I got a little past that point, I realized I didn't. And I probably never really wanted children. So that is something in my life that just never happened. And it was by choice. It was my choice to not have children. And I do not grieve that. There are times where I absolutely, of course, I have those feelings of what if. That's never really been a grief for me. And absolutely, there are times where I would think well, maybe I should have, or what if I had, but I didn't. And that's where I am. That's the point where I am in my life. But for a lot of women, there is the grief around that part of the life being complete. That's not a part of life that will happen anymore, right? It has. Okay. There are those certain situations where it has happened, but overall that period of her life is now completed. And that is absolutely a grief, right? So we talked about the hormones, we talked about the fertility being completed, but there's also just the physical changes that happen. And again, these are all things I just say all the time. We don't talk about grief. We don't talk about death. We don't talk about dying as a society. We sure the heck don't talk about these things either. Outside of a funny haha moment in a sitcom, right? We talk about oh, he's having those crazy hot flashes, and whoop, mommy put on a few pounds. Like these are things we joke about, but we don't talk about seriously. Now, for those of you who don't know, I have a background in personal training. I spent many, many years studying the body and movement and muscle building, things like that. So I know I have a good base knowledge already of a little bit, like not great. I'm not a doctor. I have never took an anatomy class or anything like that. But I have a good, at least base knowledge of our muscle systems and how our bodies work as far as like, fat loss and muscle retention. All is that to say, so I understand how and why women tend to put on weight during menopause. And I'll reemphasize, I have a background as a personal trainer. I've been a very active, very healthy, and very fit person for a good chunk of my life. And I am not right now. And that, to me personally, is the hardest part of this. Okay. I'm not going to like specify numbers. There's no body shaming on this. There's none of that, but I have for myself put on an uncomfortable amount of weight, and my abilities have taken a huge nosedive. I used to, like, just for funsies on a weekend, go for a 50-mile bike ride or a 20-mile hike. And I can't physically do those things anymore because not just the weight gain, but like other things, like there are other physical things that happen. My joints hurt all the time. I've got a lot of inflammation within my body, and my sleep is in the toilet. That's one of the other like big things that we don't always talk about is sleep disruption, because sleep affects so much. When you're not getting enough or when you're not getting quality sleep, it can literally cascade down and affect everything. It can affect your heart, your brain. There have been so many studies on the effect of our sleep, as well as, brain fog, you guys. I'm missing the word here, but in relation to Alzheimer's development. And it's all these amazing, beautiful chemical things that our bodies do to regulate themselves that get disrupted at certain times. So that's where I'm at. And I'm pretty open about these things. And I've become more open about how much it's affecting me, and physically and mentally. And it's affecting me a lot. And I apologize a lot for myself. I know I don't need to, but it's upsetting and it's hard. And I would love for us to have more of these conversations. I would love it to be more normalized within our society, that we can talk about this and not feel so ashamed. But this is just where I am right now. So there you go. So I talked a little bit about what is happening at this time in our lives, but all right, great, Nikki, what the hell do I do about it? So maybe you're a woman who found this podcast because you're right where I'm at right now. And you're like, Nikki, this is all great. I know this. I'm living it. What the hell do I do with myself? So let's talk a little bit about how we can manage this. Now, this podcast is about grief, and this is about, the emotional aspect of things, not necessarily the physical, but we have to talk about the physical too. And I have had full episodes on how grief affects the body. So things are affecting our body, right? And those things can affect our emotions. Now, so number one is physical care, right? We have to work better to have better sleep hygiene. And you can read a million things online, guys. And I can list some stuff here too that are some great things to try. However, there's no one fix for everybody. Everybody's body is a little bit different. Everybody's reaction to things is going to be a little bit different. But there are a lot of things like not eating large meals before you sleep. We all know this stinking thing right here in my hand, the cell phone I'm holding up, having that in your face an hour before you go to bed is not going to do you any favors. It does disrupt your sleep patterns. Whether you think it helps you fall asleep or not, it's one of those things that it will affect your sleep. Maybe you do fall asleep right away, but you might not have the same level. And again, you guys, these aren't foolproof for every single person. But the other big thing is temperature. I talked briefly about hot flashes. I only experienced a little of that, but I've always run hot. I'm a hot sleeper. I'm a sweaty sleeper. And I know that's why I don't sleep well, because I'm hot. So I've taken a lot of steps this year to find ways to be much cooler as I sleep. I've been sleeping in the basement over the summer because this is 2025 is when I'm recording and releasing this. So it's been a record hot summer. It's been miserable. So I've been sleeping in the basement with like 3 fans blowing on me. I have a cooling blanket, like the whole 9 yards. I do everything in my power to stay as cool as possible when I'm sleeping. So just getting better sleep is going to fix it so much. Like that's step one, right? I'm not going to go into diet and exercise because that is individual. Those are going to be unique to everybody. And again, this is the background of personal trainer in me talking too, because what works great for some doesn't always work for others. So, and you have to do, if it comes to physical exercise, you have to do what's enjoyable to you or you're not going to keep doing it. But the basics, strength training is so important. You don't have to lift, you don't have to be a bodybuilder, but you have to build muscle to burn fat. You have to build muscle to avoid losing muscle because as we reach certain ages, our body starts losing muscle mass, and that's not a good thing. So we need to gain a little bit of that muscle mass back. And we need to watch what we're eating as far as like the chemical imbalances with our hormones and protein. Protein is key. Like any nutritionist, any personal trainer, anybody will tell you, you got to like prioritize protein in your diet. So that's neither here nor there. Those are just the physical things. And again, those things are individual. So find a nutritionist, talk to your doctor, talk to your OBGYN. There obviously somebody is going to mention hormone replacement therapy. And yes, that is absolutely an option. And for some women, that is game changing. That is absolutely game changing. For some women, it doesn't work as well. Some it's not even an option. For women who might have had a history of hormonal cancers, or if you have a higher risk for stroke, blood clot, high blood pressure, things like that, these things are not really on the table for you. So you have to find other ways to supplement those hormones without the HRT. Okay, so that is the physical. So let's talk about how else we can work on this, because that's just the body. We need to work on ourselves too. So get support. I know I say that every episode. Find somebody you can talk to. Is there a support group? Or better yet, is there a group of women you all know, or a group of friends, you're all around the same age and you're starting to go through all this together? Get together once a week and complain about it. Or at least talk through it. Because who knows, maybe somebody's like, oh my gosh, I started eating less soy and I feel amazing. I don't know, less, more, whatever. Again, whatever's good for one person isn't necessarily good for everybody, but find support. When you find people who are experiencing a similar grief as you, nobody experiences it the same. When you find somebody who's experienced a similar grief, it feels validating. You feel so much less alone. So find support, or just find somebody you can speak with, be it a psychiatrist, psychologist, a counselor, a social worker, a death doula, a grief coach, somebody that you can talk to just to talk this stuff out. That's a fantastic first step, right? Again, the physical aspects of, getting better sleep, all that, but understand that our bodies are really complex, intricate things. There's a reason doctors go to school for 1,000,000 years, because there's a lot going on in here. And there are a lot of little minute things, and one little thing can disrupt a lot. And just give yourself a little bit of patience. And I'm telling you guys this, and I have zero patience with myself. Being blunt here. Give yourself a little bit of grace, okay? Feel it. I'm always saying feel it to heal it. Yeah, just accept the emotions as they are. Do your best, okay? Be honest with yourself. Be honest with your loved ones. Tell them, hey, I'm going through this right now. I'm doing the best I can. Give yourself some grace. Fingers crossed the rest of the world gives you some grace, but if they don't, give yourself some grace, okay? Just take time to grieve those things if you want to. If you want to have, I know I'm blanking on who this was, but I know there was someone a while ago that had a funeral for, she had, okay, I remember who it was, and it was a personal story, so I'm not going to share names because it's not my story to tell. Had to have a hysterectomy because of cancer and had a funeral for her uterus, and I thought that was beautiful. Whatever you need to do, rituals are so big in our grief. This is why we have funerals. This is why we have a celebration of life. Do what you need to do to recognize and honor whatever loss it is that you have suffered. And do something for that. Remember it. Recognize it. Like I said, give it the space it deserves and needs. And take your time with it. If you need to sit and grieve for a while, sit and grieve for a while. Okay, so I told you all the things. This episode was a bit of a blur. I barely remember everything I said, but we talked about menopause, we talked about grief, we talked about what the heck is going on in our bodies and what we can do to help at least make ourselves feel a little bit better. But it's like any grief, any loss. Honor it, recognize it, give it the space it deserves. Seek help if you need it. So that's about all I have to say about that. But we're now getting towards the end of the episode. Oh my gosh, you guys, end of season 6. I'm going to get a little emotional now because that's just who I've become as a person. But at the end of this episode, you know what that means. It's time to pull a card from the death deck. So I'm going to shuffle these up. I'm going to pull one at, I realize I don't shuffle them when I have a guest on. I only shuffle them for myself. I don't need to continue to shuffle them. But anyway, all right. Oh my gosh. Okay. This is your memorial plaque. Fill in the blanks. Here lies your name. Best remembered for blank and blank. Oh my gosh. Okay, so here lies Nikki. Best remembered for her sense of humor and her compassion. That's what I'm going with. I feel pretty confident about that. I think that's what most people would say. So there you go. I would love to hear what your plaque would say. Reach out to me, please. You can find me at nikkithedeathdoula.com. You can send me a message there. You can find me on Substack. Please come over to Substack and subscribe. And let me know your answer. Yeah. Oh, and gosh, guys, I keep forgetting. If you want some amazing merch, like look at that shirt behind me. That's just one of like 8 colors that shirt comes in. It comes in like white, gray, pink, purple, I think like a lavender. I don't know. I don't even remember what all colors come in. It's right there. And on the back, it says my little 3 sentences I say at the end of the episode, which you will hear in just a minute. But you can get some amazing merch if you go to nikkithedeathdoula.com. I'm blocking it. There we go. .com /podcast. And you can find information there too on the books that my guests have written, their websites and things like that. So I'm adding to that as I go. So, check back if something's not there and yeah, but please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. If you really enjoyed this episode, the most easiest, quickest, simplest, wonderful thing you can do for me is to leave me a review. Whatever podcast app you're listening on, go in and do the little 5-star thing. Apple really likes it when you write a couple sentences like, this is why Nikki is so awesome and I just love everything about her. So please go do that. If you want to help me more, go to patreon.com/nikkithedeathdoula. You get some bonus content there too. I didn't mention that at the beginning. You get access to this podcast a week early, get grief affirmations in your inbox, and you get, all sorts of other great content throughout the month. Even if you just follow me on Patreon for free, you still get some content there too. So come check that out. It'd be amazing. I'd love to hear from you. If you have a story you'd like to share about a loss that you've suffered, please reach out to me through my website. And gosh, that's it. That's a wrap on Steven. Apparently tongue-tied is another symptom of menopause. That's a wrap on season 7. Guys, I am so grateful each and every one of you are here. If you found me for whatever reason, I see you, I love you, and I'm so glad you're here. And here it comes, what's on the back of that t-shirt behind me. As I say it at the end of every episode, guys, grief is yours, feelings are valid, and grief doesn't always have to suck. Good Grief with Nikki the Death Doula is produced by Nikki Smith of Nikki the Death Doula LLC in Columbus, Ohio. Nikki the Death Doula LLC is for consulting, education, emotional support, and guidance, and is no way considered a funeral establishment or licensed mental health establishment. Scripts, editing, sound design, literally everything with this podcast is done solely by Nikki Smith of Nikki the Death Doula LLC, with the exception of the music. The music is Cheery Monday by Kevin MacLeod. Licensing information can be found at filmmusic.io.